Thank you, Chairman Bishop, Ranking Member Grijalva, and members of the subcommittee. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to submit testimony in support of H.R. 2240 on behalf of the City of Lowell. Among other purposes, this legislation will grant the Lowell National Historical Park authority to execute mutually beneficial land exchanges with the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The Lowell National Historical Park was created and empowered by Congress to preserve and interpret the nationally significant historical and cultural sites, structures, and districts in Lowell, Massachusetts. However, it was also granted what was then a unique mission to help facilitate economic and cultural revitalization in the city. And due in part to the tremendous record of success that the park has enjoyed in this, several similar parks have subsequently been established. This legislation will further the mission, intent, and purpose of the park in two important ways. First, it will allow the Lowell National Historical Park to continue its active and supportive participation in the Hamilton Canal District, the city's signature economic development project. Planned as a mixed-use redevelopment of more than 15 acres of underutilized and vacant publicly owned land, upon completion, the Hamilton Canal District will generate nearly 2 million square feet of private real estate development and create as many as 1,600 new permanent jobs. This project has already rehabilitated one of the most visible and nationally significant mill complexes within the boundaries of the park, which represents an investment of $65 million and the creation of over 200 well-paid construction jobs during the depths of the recent recession. This project is also notable as a model for expediting local and state environmental and land use permitting, and the entire development is currently positioned to proceed by right without any further discretionary local or state review. With the active participation and consent of officials from the Lowell National Historical Park, the Hamilton Canal District site includes the redevelopment of land currently owned by the park and utilized only for surface parking. The plan envisions redeveloping this parking lot in a manner consistent with the mission, vision, and general management plan for the park, with new commercial buildings that will house research and development, as well as general office space. In exchanging land presently owned by the Lowell National Historical Park, the federal government will be in a position to not only support the Hamilton Canal District project at no cost, but also will obtain interest in real property and/or structured parking spaces that are more consistent with the Park Service's immediate and long-term needs. This legislation is required in order for such a land exchange to occur because the Lowell National Historical Park is currently prohibited from executing this type of real estate transaction with the City of Lowell. Second, it will extend the term of an existing revolving loan program that has played a key role in facilitating the redevelopment and restoration of over 5 million square feet of formerly vacant mill buildings to productive reuse and has leveraged nearly $175 for every dollar originally invested. The requested extension will merely allow existing loans to continue to revolve within the fund to support the rehabilitation and preservation of additional privately owned historic buildings that contribute to the park. Importantly, it will require no new appropriation of funds. The City of Lowell remains tremendously grateful for the contributions that the federal government and the U.S. Congress have made to the renaissance of our city through the National Park Service. Were it not for the wisdom and past commitments of Congress and the National Park Service, Lowell would not enjoy the reputation as a model for the revitalization and redevelopment of smaller post-industrial cities that we do. This legislation will allow for the highly successful partnership to continue and expand at no cost to the Federal Treasury. In closing, I appreciate the opportunity to testify and strongly encourage you to join me in supporting it. I'm happy to address any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Turn to the committee for questions. Mr. Grijalva, Mr. Amedee, Mr. Holt.
I do have questions, but I would yield to the gentlelady from Massachusetts.
That's
first.
fair. Ms. Tsongas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. May, I'd like to address the issue a little bit of the land exchange, one most immediately around the surface parking lot, but also looking forward to the Commonwealth. Isn't it true that most other national parks already have the authority to undertake land exchanges such as H.R. 2240 would grant to the Lowell National Historical Park?
I believe that's typical, yes.
And what are the criteria that any proposed exchange would have to meet to be considered?
Well, it always has to be an equal exchange or approximately equal exchange. In some cases, an exchange may involve the United States receiving something of greater value than they are exchanging in return. In those circumstances, it's done with an acknowledgement by the exchanging partner that the greater value that's been received by the government is in fact a donation. So the government always receives equal or greater value.
And those requirements would be accommodated in this proposed legislation?
Yes.
And wouldn't such a transfer in this instance add to the economic development of Lowell as well as advance the park's mission?
Absolutely, we believe that.
So in actuality, this provision really just helps improve the flexibility for local agencies to make decisions that would best help the city and the park, removing some of the regulatory burden that brings the park and the city here today.
That's right.
And then, Mr. Bakke, I'd like to ask you, too, if you could just talk a little bit about the Preservation Loan Program, the kinds of projects that it has been so instrumental in advancing.
Yes, thank you. The Preservation Loan Fund, although not a significant amount of money was originally invested, has actually touched a substantial number of buildings in downtown Lowell that are now fully restored as a result of that investment. They generally fall into two categories. One are smaller Main Street type commercial buildings, and the other are larger mill complexes. And in each case, it is unlikely that these projects would have been able to proceed absent that federal support.
And given that they are also very critical to protecting the architectural heritage of the Industrial Revolution, in essence, the private sector is taking on the preservation efforts and encouraged to do so by this preservation program.
That's absolutely correct.
So as a result, we've seen tremendous investment in very expensive projects that have helped protect this tremendous heritage, and adaptive reuse as well, knowing that these buildings cannot function as they were originally designed, and yet I happen to live in one, a mill that was home to a textile industry that now is a beautiful place for many different kinds of people to come and live and contribute to the city. So you see over and over again how critically important this loan program has been to making sure that we address the mission of the park and we also contribute to the economic development of the city. So I thank you all for being here, and with that I yield back.
Thank you very much. Oh, Mr. Holt, did you have questions on
yes,
this bill?
yes, I do, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I have visited the Lowell Historic Site and find it most impressive, and it really is a testament to the vision of Paul Tsongas, really a Janus-like vision that helps us look forward by looking backward. And it really is a wonderful recognition of the innovation and industry on which America has been built. I would say only slightly tongue-in-cheek that it is perhaps second in importance only to the Patterson National Historical Park, recently dedicated in Patterson, New Jersey. I'd like to ask a question, Mr. Bakke, to understand better the preservation loan program. I understand from the sponsor, from Ms. Tsongas, that the bill, there's some urgency in getting this reauthorization because the loans would have to stop without this. Please explain that, because we've got 5 years till the expiration, as I understand it. So what is the urgency here? Why would the lending stop now if we don't proceed with this?
Thank you. Actually, you are entirely correct that the current authorization has 5 years remaining on it. The difficulty is when you're doing real estate development and lending into real estate development, 5 years is about the minimum amount of time that anyone would make a loan or be able to take on a loan with a project. And in order for all the funding to be back and be available from the program to return to the Treasury, as is now required, at the end of the current term, no new loans can be made at this point. It is also important to note that there is almost no money available in the program anyway, because all of it is actually out doing its job at the moment.
Good. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I really don't have a question on this because Tsongas has done a good job on this particular bill. I do want to say one thing to Mr. May. It's one of the offhanded comments you made in here that the federal government, with the land exchanges, especially government-to-government land exchanges, always has to get equal or greater value, is an arrogance that is offensive. The idea that the federal government can't give to another level of government, it has to get something of equal value or greater value. I don't care what kind of scoring you have to have on that. That is a horrendous policy. And it's not your fault, but it is the fault of the mindset that we have within the agencies of government, and that is something that I just find abhorrent. It's not a problem with this bill, it's a problem with the agency. So take it back there and fix it. With that, we end the discussion of this particular issue. I wish to turn to H.R.